Last night, the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins faced off on Thursday Night Football. A divisional matchup. Seemed like it was going to be a high-scoring affair in this really entertaining football game, and unfortunately, instead, we come away with sort of a grim leading topic, and that was that Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa suffered a concussion late in the game, scrambling up through the line of scrimmage and, past the first down, just sort of had almost not even that massive of a collision with Bills defensive back Damar Hamlin, and immediately you could see the way that he just sort of dropped to the ground, that he was not okay. And it's a really bad sign for Tua's career because at this point, again, it didn't seem like that hard of a hit. Now, there was definitely some whiplash at that neck area that it's not an easy blow for anybody to overcome, but again, with the history of it, just how fast Tua dropped, things are looking really grim for him moving forward here. It sounds like the protocol, according to CBS Sports' injury experts, that this would be a minimum of 8 weeks, given the fact that this is his third diagnosed concussion of his NFL career in just 2 years. That, concussions are typically an injury that the amount of time required to bounce back can be a little bit fluid, but sounds like minimum 8 weeks here. Again, that's according to CBS Sports, but we'll see, because I have a hard time imagining that he's even going to return to the field this season. Now, that's all speculation, and I don't want to do that. This is obviously a very sensitive topic in regards to this is an injury that can affect Tua for the rest of his life. So, I don't want to make cases for or against him retiring. He has said that he's contemplated retiring after 2022 when he suffered concussions in back-to-back weeks. It was 2 in the span of 5 days or so. That I do personally think that retirement is the best option for him. But that being said, it is also a situation where it doesn't matter what I think, it doesn't matter what you think, or even what the organization thinks to that point. It's really just him and his family that have to come to this decision, and I don't want to speculate on that any further. So, that being said, there is sort of, again, it feels gross to talk about sort of the financial implications coming out of this as well, because we all acknowledge, prayers for Tua that he is able to recover from this. But it's a subplot of this whole story is the fact that Tua did just get paid a massive 4-year, $212.4 million deal this past offseason. And it does tie into the conversation as well in regards to, is it worth it for Tua to keep putting his body on the line like this, knowing the dangers that come with it, especially when you're talking about the head like that. So the deal was, when it came out, $167 million guaranteed, but he doesn't get to collect that entire number until he actually plays through the year, and he won't be able to collect the full $167 million if he does decide to walk away from the game of football on his own will. SpotRack broke down how the guarantees work with this deal, so I double checked here. I believe that this is the right information, that Tua has received $43 million in guaranteed money for this 2024 season. So it sounds like he already has that banked as a little bit of a cushion, depending on how he wants to go about this. Now, if he is medically forced into retirement, which is definitely on the table if they determine that his head is not right to go and continue playing football, the entire sum of that $167 million of guaranteed money will be his to claim. If he decides at his own discretion that he wants to step away and retire on the spot, then he will not get that additional $124 million outside of the $43 million that he has banked from this season. And ultimately, him and the Dolphins could negotiate from there and maybe ends up with a larger portion there. But probably not the entire thing. Again, I don't want to sort of argue for or against him retiring. That's none of my business necessarily. But again, just to sort of reiterate what the financial situation is here, he has already gotten a pretty solid chunk out of that contract that he signed in this past offseason, that it's not like he would be stepping away from it entirely, but a lot of money left on the board there as well. So again, we're just going to leave it there. And that's really the entirety of the off the field discussion with Tua. But that being said, and again, praying for him, the Dolphins have to keep moving here. As much as they'll probably take the next couple days to sort of mourn is the wrong word, because it's not like he's going anywhere necessarily, but just sort of reflect on this injury and be upset about it for a bit. But they're going to have to keep moving. And where do they move on from here? It doesn't sound like they are planning on taking any immediate action. Per Ian Rappaport, quote, Mike McDaniel says the team is moving forward with Skyler Thompson, but will sign a quarterback for depth. Now, you think about what types of free agent quarterbacks are available right now, there aren't very many at all. Now, again, it sounds like the plan is that Skyler Thompson is the starting quarterback anyways. Definitely wouldn't make me feel great if I were a Miami fan. I think that if there were any free agent quarterback that you could maybe talk yourself into, Ryan Tannehill does feel like the logical option there. Just last weekend, Rappaport also put out a story about how Tannehill is, quote, waiting for the right opportunity to sign with a team. And it feels to me that this would kind of be that ideal landing spot for Tannehill if he does want to work his way back into the NFL with a chance to start once again. And there might not be a better situation in general for a quarterback than what is going on in Miami, with two amazing wide receiver talents, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. The run game that is developing, two speedsters in Devin Achane and Raheem Mostert once Mostert returns, and then an innovative play caller in Mike McDaniel. I know that some people are sort of getting on McDaniel's case. Last night wasn't an excellent showing from him from a coaching game plan style necessarily, but that being said, I still am a believer in McDaniel as a coach. And again, in terms of free agent quarterbacks, there really aren't any other serviceable options outside of Tannehill. Tannehill obviously started his career with the Miami Dolphins all those years ago, as you know, was able to find a rejuvenation of his career in Tennessee, where he had some good years, some years that he was legit seriously in MVP consideration, specifically the season that the Dolphins were the 1 seed. But you know, that being said, at this point, Tannehill, you're definitely not getting a super reliable starter at that point. He ended up losing his job to, it was Malik Willis first, I think, and then it was Will Levis. So that's an area that I'm definitely not ultra confident in Tannehill being the answer. I understand at this point it's definitely the easiest answer for them, and the one that, you know, you don't need to, I suppose, overreact in week 1 here, considering the fact that, yes, you lose your starting quarterback, that it's not like you want to go out and spend really big on another quarterback right now, but it's something that they are going to have to consider. So it sounds like the plan is right now that Skyler Thompson is going to start games for them. We'll see what that depth signing is, whether it's Tannehill or somebody else, and we will see how that sort of shakes out for them. I feel like they probably give it a few weeks, and we'll see what their record is at that point as well. Obviously now 1-1, and this is a team that feels like they are talented enough to make the playoffs, probably even outside of the quarterback position. This is a very talented roster for Miami. I just don't know if they have that option at quarterback right now to be able to make that push. So that being said, what are the other types of moves that the Dolphins could make to bolster their roster? And I think there are actually a handful of interesting trade candidates should things not go well in Miami and if things break differently for other teams across the league as well. The number one name I will throw out, and I've kind of sneakily talked myself into this, is what are the possibilities here that if the Dolphins continue to struggle, or even if the Dolphins are in the mix still, and the Giants continue to struggle, that Daniel Jones could be traded to Miami. It's a situation where I even sort of ran it by the idea by some Giants friends of mine, and they were more than willing to pack the bags for Daniel Jones to head out of New York. It's a situation where you wouldn't be taking on the full 3 years that are technically left on his deal. There is an out after this season that they could probably get the Giants anyways to shoulder the majority of the financial obligation to Daniel Jones. He gets a little bit of a fresh start, probably a 1-year gig, but he gets another chance to play with some actual weapons for once in his career and see whether or not, it has been fully on him or whether or not it's also somewhat a product of him being on a pretty untalented Giants offense these past couple seasons as well. That's one that I legitimately think would be very interesting and is conceivable. There are some other names as well that definitely could be in the mix. I think that whoever ends up ultimately losing out on the Miami Dolphins or on the Pittsburgh Steelers job, whether that be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, I think that either one of them could maybe be moved. Now, I'm not sure how set the Steelers are on either one of them, but that's a case where if you could maybe get, some solid draft compensation from Miami, that it might be worth giving up a little bit of that depth anyways, but that one doesn't feel quite as realistic for me. I feel like if the Patriots start to dissolve here a little bit and they don't look good in these next few weeks, it's weird because the interdivision aspect of it, I'm not sure if the Patriots would be jumping at the opportunity to trade Brissett to a rival like that. But if it looks like Brissett isn't the man for the job in New England and the Patriots are ready, the key sort of aspect of this is if they are ready to move on to Drake May, that it might not hurt them sort of just offloading Jacoby Brissett for a day 2, maybe early day 3 pick, just something to consider. And then last couple names I have here as well is some backup options that are around the league that have a lot of starting experience, and Jimmy Garoppolo and Jameis Winston, where I think that Winston especially, Cleveland is probably going to look a little bit to hold on to him because I don't know how secure Deshaun Watson is in his job right now, but Winston in Miami would automatically make them a very fun team moving forward for the rest of this season. You want to talk about just somebody with arm talent that can let it rip for Tyreek Hill. I mean, Jameis would be so reckless, but also so fun in that Miami offense that I could definitely see myself getting a little bit excited about Miami because ultimately, and again, I don't want to take away from Tua right now. It would be distasteful considering the sequence of events here, but I have always said that I think that Mike McDaniel's offense is quarterback friendly, and I think there are a lot of quarterbacks that could thrive in that system. And now we're going to get a chance to see whether or not that is the case with all of the weapons they have. It's just a matter of who are they actually going to put at the helm. Again, as for now, it's Skyler Thompson, but truthfully, I would be very surprised if we see him being the Dolphins starting quarterback for the remainder of the season, knowing that this is a front office that believes in the roster that they have right now and that they should be in the realm of being true playoff threats. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. Again, prayers for Tua to be able to recover from this and not be impacted too severely in the long term. But I mean, man, just what a scary situation is, of course, a reminder of just how dangerous football is. But again, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that Tua should retire? As much as, give us your thoughts at the end of the day as well, though. This is a decision he's going to have to make for himself. But we did have a football game last night, obviously overshadowed by this very drastic news here, but we're going to be talking about just some general takeaways from the game itself, because the Buffalo Bills, even before the injury occurred, the Bills looked really good, which was a big surprise to me. So we are going to be diving into what we did learn from, again, a pure football perspective on the field. But before we do so, we have to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.